Subscribe EcoFam for more educational videos. Welcome, dear learners. Today we are going to discuss about energy transitions and renewables. This lecture will be about the transition, ways, drivers, challenges, and technologies for the energy transitions from current, that is from the non-renewable resources of energy to the renewable resources of energy. Let's start. Before we go in the discussion of the energy transitions, let us have a brief discussion about what is the energy transition. So the renewable energy transition is the ongoing energy transition which aims at replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy. This transition can impact many aspects of life, including the environment, society, the economic, and governance. So, humans have been long back involved in energy transitions. In earlier time, we were using the fire for producing the energy. Then we have went for the domestication of the animals like ox, horses, donkey, camel, and then we have started domesticating the wind energy, that is for sailing and for the windmill, and currently that energy is used for the electricity generation. And also in earlier times we used the domestication of the rivers for the river mills. So energy transitions have been the part of the history of the human civilization long back. So the foremost motivation for the energy transition is to limit the adverse effects of the energy consumption on the environment. And this includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating climate change. In 2019, in United States, the cost of renewable energy reached the point to where it's generally cheaper to build and operate new solar photovoltaic, that is PV plants, and that the cost of new or even existing coal-fired power plants. So investing in innovation research is considered imperative in overcoming problems related to renewable energy such as efficiency, energy storage, reliability, variability, and for energy transition and flexibility. Storage is vital for the renewable energy transition due to the intermittency of many renewable energy resources. So this was brief about what is the energy transition. So what are the factors or what are the drivers of the energy transition? Many factors are driven that increase the need and interest in the renewable energy transition. Among the most drivers are acknowledgement of energy systems, impact on climate change, as well as diminishing the resources that strengthen the energy security. And climate change can be attributed to use fossil fuel energy and the contribution of carbon dioxide to atmosphere. This increased level of greenhouse gases emission create adverse effect on changing climate, such as increasing intensity and frequency of natural disasters. The IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, has said with high certainty that society has 12 years to complete an entire transition to avoid catastrophic climate change. This reality has motivated the conversion of renewable energy transition as a mitigating strategy or tactic. The fossil fuel industry faces a risk completely separate from the impact of climate change. Fossil fuels are a limited resource and are at risk of reaching peak in which diminishing returns will become prevalent. Uncertainty with the supply of this resource questions the security of the industries and investments in the fossil fuels. These driving conservations are motivating organizations to consider the future energy sector. So some of the drivers, based on the argument which I have presented, some of the drivers for the energy transition are the modernizing and diversifying the economy. So for modernizing or diversifying the economy, we need more power, and that power should be more sustainable. And the sustainable is only in the way when uh, it is acquired from the non that it is acquired from the renewable resources like the hydropower, like wind, solar, or any kind of the non-conventional renewable resource of energy. Then improving security by reducing import dependency and security energy access, that is also a driver for the energy transition. Then overall improving the air quality, because by the burning of the fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, they lead to the emission of the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, and also the emission of the sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, that lead to the acid rain and other, many health consequences. So for improving the quality of air, we need the energy transitions. So this is one of the driver. Last one is the mitigating the climate change. So if we have to reduce the impact of the climate change, we have to shift towards the renewable resource of energy, so that there is less emission of the carbon dioxide, there is less emission of another other greenhouse gases. So we can reduce, that is the uh, that is the proposed increase in the temperature, because of the increase in the greenhouse gases can be reduced or mitigated. So what are the various technologies for the energy transitions? We have said many kind of drivers that can lead for the energy transition. Now we have to discuss about what could be the new technologies for the energy transitions. So the first one is the green hydrogen. So the hydrogen is said to be a kind of energy for which the technologies are not available for using or utilizing. So because of its storage problem, there have been many limitations for using the hydrogen as an energy. So green hydrogen could be a critical enabler of the global transition to sustainable energy and net zero emissions in the economies. There is unprecedented moment around the world to fulfill and hydrogen's long-standing potential as a clean energy solution. So hydrogen is emerging as one of the leading options for storing energy from renewables, with hydrogen-based fuel potentially transporting energy from renewable over the long distances, from regions with abundant energy resources to energy hungry areas thousands of kilometers away. So green hydrogen featured in a number of emissions reduction pledge at United Nations Climate Conference COP26 as a means to decarbonize heavy industries, uh, long-haul freight ships, and aviation. Governments and industries have both acknowledged hydrogen as an important pillar of net zero economy. So next one is distributed energy aggregation. That is, by aggregating distributed energy resources in mass to provide grid services, grid operators can concurrently improve reliability while ensuring high penetration levels of renewable resources. Then transmission development, areas with high quality renewable energy resources like wind or sunny areas or windy areas are often far from the load centers and existing power system infrastructure. So to connect these resources and achieve renewable energy goals, significant transmission system investment and expansion might be required. And then the fine-tuning of hydropower, wind, and solar power. So the hydroelectricity is the largest source of renewable electricity in the world, providing around 16.6 of the world's total energy or electricity. That was the statistics in 2015. However, because of its heavy dependence on the geography and the generally high environmental and social impacts, I have discussed it in earlier lecture what are the various impacts of the dams, that is environmental impacts of the dams. So social impacts of the hydroelectric power plants, the growth potential of this technology is limited because most of the current companies or investors, they are very reluctant in investing the hydropower because it is little bit costlier than the thermal power. So the wind and solar power are considered more scalable and therefore have higher potential for the growth. These sources have grown nearly exponentially in recent decades, and thanks to rapidly decreasing costs, because in such technologies like solar and wind energy, the cost of installation and technology have been reduced, so there widely a rapid increase have been because of the reducing costs. In 2018, wind power supplied around 4.8% of the worldwide electricity, while solar powered around 3% in 2019. And last one is digitizing the power sector. So digital power is one of the most important technologies for reducing power consumption and managing the growing power complexity in modern electronic system. So these were some technologies by which we can go for the energy transitions. So we have the technologies, we have the renewable resources of energy, but how can we how can we do a transition from the fossil fuel energy to the renewable energies? So we need various kinds of technologies and interventions for that. So with new kind of thing, it brings challenges also. So there are challenges also for the energy transitions. So first one is the energy mix and grid flexibility requirements. So a massive increase in renewable energy generation means that we must start planning now for how to manage seasonal gaps in economic low carbon solution when there is not enough wind and solar power to meet peak demands. So this is how we can generate the bulk of electricity from fossil fuels to renewable resources, and will create a significant economic, technological, and policy challenges for the energy industry and other principalities or the governments. And second one is the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, because if we have to remove the greenhouse gases from the vehicles, so we have to shift from the fossil fuel fired vehicles to the electric vehicles. So we need a charging infrastructure. So electric vehicle or EV charging uh, concentration increases. EV charging infrastructure deployment runs into existing grid limitations in the shape of substations, transformers, and cable sizing, as it has been doing in Norway in recent years. Being able to time EV charging according to the energy system requirements will significantly lower the system costs by avoiding grid upgrading and providing flexibility to absorb variable renewable cost effectively. So the last one is the need for longer term backup capacity. So a large increase of demand response, storage, smart charging of the EV, and can be substantially mitigate the intermittency issues of high renewable energy systems. However, it cannot completely address. There will be weeks and months of low variable renewable like solar and wind, and production that require long-term backup capacity. Other uses of fossil fuels will also remain, such as petrochemicals or such type of transportation. So a zero carbon scenario would require low carbon substitutes for the fossil fuel given doubts about the cost and availability or of the nuclear power and the need to retain dispatchable on demand power sources for long period as well as lightweight dense energy sources for specific causes. So the possible substitutes could include synthetic fuels based on the combination of hydrogen obtained from water, hydrolysis, and captured and recovered carbon dioxide. However, we won't reach this point for some time, so research and early stage investment into such technologies would require a sustained public support. So these were all the drivers, then technologies and challenges for the energy transition. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you for watching the lecture.